Hello and welcome to Hundo Presents Web3 Waffles. Today I'm very happy to be joined by Tanya Zhelezniak. I hope I said that right. I have been practicing before the recording. Fantastic. Absolutely wonderful to have you on today. Just doing a bit of research in terms of your background. You're the founder and owner of Dig.it. You're also an expert in digital presence, digital transformation, digital marketing, solid high tech background across sort of the tech industry, passion for education, entrepreneurship, and community building. So, a very broad range of skill sets. So, it's absolutely fantastic to have you on today. And I'm looking forward to digging into a conversation about everything you're currently doing. So, my first question, just to kick things off, is can you tell our listeners a bit about yourself and your journey into Web3 so far?
Wow. Thank you so much for inviting me. First of all, I'm a big fan
Oh,
of
you're welcome.
Hundo and what you're doing. And really, I'm glad that we can also talk about things we were doing together and separately because we are all in the same uh, vision and with the same purpose. Uh, a little bit about myself. Let's start at that. I live in Israel. I've immigrated to this country when I was at age 18, and I'm really um, I had luck that my parents brought me here, so I will have a better future. I will have
Yeah.
a great education, and this is what I've tried to do all my life. Um, Actually, uh, to bring them this back as much as I can to show them that what they did wasn't for
Yeah.
nothing. And so I studied computer science and all my career was in the high-tech industry. I was
Yeah.
software engineer, um, a system architect, and project manager and team manager. So, and I worked in big companies and small companies, and I faced many different problems during actually 20 years from 2000 to 2020. So this is the period where I constantly learned not only new languages and skills, but also I was during the process when internet evolved and the transformation which were needed to traditional systems and traditional organizations to adjust to this constantly changing environment and problems that we faced with the users. And I was always wondering, is what is it for a software engineer? Besides coding, I need to know about that. I was
Yeah.
always asking very not technical questions, and I was I wanted to know what exactly the problems on the ground, what exactly needed, and I always wanted to go to the end user and to see actually how they work and if what I do actually serves their purpose.
Yeah.
And it was very unusual for software engineer, but this is how I am. I was always curious person, even when I was a child, and I was born and raised in the former Soviet Union when you not supposed to ask questions. You just need to follow the rules. And I always asked why, and usually I didn't do what written or said on in rules. I always uh, wanted to. I was a rebellion, and I wanted to try myself, different things differently.
Yeah.
It was in my blood, uh, and this is who I am. And actually now it's something that embraced. If before you had to follow rules and be like everybody else, so today there's a need for people which can think and do things differently and be creative. And so now is the time actually for people like me to bring value from this personal characteristics. So because I was like that, and also in what I was doing during my professional work, I found myself actually 2 years ago asking myself, okay, is that what I will gonna do all my life, being a software engineer in Heidegg, or there's anything else I can do, maybe even better? And it was strange times of COVID period, and actually I was always learning during the process. I always took courses and seminars and certificates, so I was always learning, but it was always the same in the same field. And 2 years ago I saw a master's degree which was new and different. It was combining technology and marketing. And I said, okay, this is something interesting. I would like to learn that. So during the studies, master studies, I actually learned about marketing and digital marketing
Yeah.
and many more about customer behavior and so many other things that I wasn't exposed to them during my work, but I always wanted to know them about ethics, many other stuff which are not technical but needed.
Yeah.
And from there, my mind just was open to so many new possibilities, and the period was like that everybody understood that we needed change, and the change have to come in all aspects of our life, and every field should embrace technology now. If before there were some companies which are saying, okay, maybe someday we will do that. So now you don't have to convince them. Everybody understands that. And actually, people like me, which have a technical background and um, found themselves also with the knowledge in marketing, let's say, or any other field actually, which can bridge this gap between these fields, are very required. And this is what I actually found about myself, that being actually in the edge between, this is the most important thing to do now, and I'm trying to contribute it in every field and every aspect, and actually bridge this gap. And because I found myself so excited about the new way of learning process in new fields, and I understood that actually I can learn anything now, not just technical things, but if I want to uh, learn about biology or politics or whatever, I can do that now. I know I can. And this is what it gave me, the security and the ability to take myself without afraid to any other topic and learn it by myself and find resources for that, communities which can help me. And there is nothing that I can say today that I don't need. Actually, we should open our mind to very different aspects, because you never know where you find an inspiration, actually new solution to some known problem. That's why I started to also to take myself to things that I didn't know before, like entrepreneurship, and I found it something that actually I can relate myself, because I always wanted to do things differently. I just didn't know that it called uh, um, entrepreneurship and innovation. Okay, so I built the community during the studies in college. This was a students community, because I saw so many students have so many things to say about themselves and what they know, and we started just to share it first in the group, and then we opened it for everybody. I said, why academy keeps this knowledge inside. We can open our doors and invite anybody to listen and participate. And this is how it started from community perspective. And today, I actually proceed my studies. I'm study third degree, and I work on non-fungible tokens topic, which is really interesting to me.
Yep.
And actually what it can do to us in the future, how we can use it properly. And I also a teaching assistant in several academy organizations, and I also teach by myself. I have my own business, Digit, and I also recently started new position in a curiosity lab in Tel Aviv University, and in this lab we are working on social robots, which are curious in the algorithm, and they help people to be also curious and learn differently anything they want. So I find myself combining my different tools and different knowledge from different fields, but they all, the purpose is to um, to make our education much more efficient. And I think this is the start point, especially when we don't know what is gonna be, and the changes are very big changes now. We don't do small steps now. We are running, and sometimes we need to stop and think
Yeah.
because we might hit the wall. And education helps. It puts some brakes maybe, but they are necessary.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. I think what really resonates with me when you were talking about your journey so far is you went from a very technical background. You came from the computer science background, then started to bridge that out actually into, well, what problems am I solving? How is this impacting the end user? How is this impacting society as a whole off the back of that? And I think that's becoming more and more important, because technology has always been quite siloed in some respects. So technology works with technology, and then there's always been a barrier, and it's always been hard for people to bridge that gap, as you say. I think bridging the gap is a great way of describing it. But people are using technology every day. We're using technology to record this. My son's using technology when he's interacting because he's watching things on a pad. Technology is in our hands day to day. And I think bridging that gap and giving people the tools and the knowledge to be able to utilize it. You don't need to be a developer, but to be able to utilize technology and be able to solve problems with it and demystify that, the notion that it's complex, is really important, because it does mean that people can start to use technology in ways that nobody would have expected them to. It's one of the key things we think about at Hundo, is that every role is going to have a technical aspect to it, and it's not just about interfacing with it, but it's understanding the opportunities it can give you. Thinking recently, what does ChatGPT mean for almost every role? How do you use that? There's some pros to it, some cons to it, but it's about understanding what these new tools can do for you and how you can use them, and not being scared of them. And I think that's kind of critical, I think. And it's one of the key changing points I'm starting to see, where there used to be this divide of you're the tech person, I'm not, and now it's like actually we're all becoming tech people and we all have access to these tools. You can build a website with a drag and drop interface now. There's all these other, you've got the power to communicate with an AI just by typing, and actually just making that accessible is really powerful. Yeah, and I'm really interested to see how that starts to evolve, and how, and as you say, education becomes the key to that, and making sure everybody, regardless of the courses people are doing, there's a technology aspect to it. You could be doing archaeology, but there's a technology aspect to that. You're doing finance, there's a technology aspect. So yeah, it just resonated quite hardly in terms of how we're thinking about the way education has to go, and how we need to supplement traditional education with the tech side to give people the opportunities they didn't know existed beforehand.
Exactly. Exactly that. And you touch some pain point. We are talking about people, and people have feelings, and they're afraid, and they have lack of confidence. And actually, each person has its own way to learn. Okay, and mostly people don't know what is the best way for them to learn. Are they listeners or talkers,
Yeah.
or they maybe some people are like to write when they learn. So actually, we need to learn first of all about ourselves. Okay, what is the best way to for me uh, to to embrace this learning process, not too afraid of it. I hear a lot of uh, um, uh, people saying, well, yeah, I need to know about it, but I don't have time. I don't know how to start. I actually don't think I need this. There are so many why not? And actually, you have to find like just one reason why yes, you have to. And I always saying, okay, let's say that you don't need this professionally, but what about your children? They are using that and you are not. So actually, there is a gap. You can talk with them about that, and they know that you cannot add anything about this topic. And if you don't need it for yourself, maybe you don't need to invest your time because you care about relationships with your children or grandchildren
Mm.
even. Okay, and this is how I explained it to my mother when she started to use a smartphone. And she said, okay, I used to call. This is what phone is about, actually. I said, yes, you're right. But the new generation, uh, they're they prefer to use messages. So why don't you learn how to do that? And actually, I suggested her to talk to her grandson, my son. I said, Johnny, maybe you will teach grandma how to send messages. And he did it gladly. He was, I don't know, 6, 7, like that. And
Yep.
and suddenly there was something new between them. Since then, she's asking him, my children, to help her, not me. I'm helping her also with other stuff. But these small things, they actually um, bring generations together and embrace the this way of learning together. Okay, because we don't want to leave anyone behind. We want that all generation will have good life, and they will feel that they are part of this process, and actually their knowledge they have can contribute to the new generation and vice versa. So my children are used to help to anybody. They don't see any person that don't need this. Everybody needs this. So I think we have to think about it like that, not only in professional way, but also in our daily life. You said technology is everywhere. You cannot be part of that anymore. And first of all, you have to know that, okay, I don't know that now, but I will learn and I will ask for help. This is what people also afraid to do. Just say, I don't know that. Please help me. And
Yeah. And that's often the barrier. It's often the barrier. I'm sure you see it yourself. One of the barriers is, people will start with, this may seem like a stupid question, but I don't know how to do this. And you're like, well, of course it's not a stupid question, because most people don't know how to do that. Everybody has to learn how to do that. And there are some of us that just like playing with tech and will go in and play with it. But there are others that don't, and others that want to stand off. But equally, I don't know how to mend the engine in my car. I would ask somebody to do that, because I understand the principles, but I don't know how to do it. And so you kind of have to flip that around. I think it's really fascinating, the story about getting your 6-year-old to teach, another generation how to do it, because I certainly see that as well. I've got a 6-year-old as well. And the way that they learn is, if he's interested in something, he will learn everything about it and then teach everybody else about it. And I think that ability to bring like relationships into education is actually quite important, and that intergenerational piece is quite important, because it's something that's often missed in like how you teach formally. It got me thinking about, I wonder if there was like a content stream you could create where it's 6-year-olds teaching people about the latest technology, because they will explain it in the simplest way possible, because they will just understand it and they'll be like, this is how you do it. It kind of opens up some fascinating opportunities about what would it look like if you did get 10-year-olds teaching us how tech works, because sometimes I need something at that level. So just tell me simply, how does this work? And then it becomes more accessible to everybody else, and it becomes much easier for people to lean into it and go, actually, I want to do it. And the other thing that I was thinking about when you were speaking just then is that trying to carve out time to learn new things. And again, I think this is about the way you touched on it as well, about the way that people learn. We think about the concept of liquid learning at Hundo, which is that liquid can flow, and it flows in different ways, and it can be ice and it can be steam, and it can operate very different ways. And it's the same with learning. What you might prefer to learn through reading, or through trying something out, or through watching a video, or through talking. And I don't think many people realize that they have different ways of learning. And again, it might sound like an obvious thing to say, but being able to understand how you prefer to learn is actually quite important, because once you understand how you can learn, then you find ways of learning that fit in well with that. So if you prefer to watch a YouTube video on how to do something as opposed to reading the manual, then do that. And then it becomes less of a challenge. You're not having to force yourself to do it, because you can lean in and you can do it. We've been experimenting quite a bit with, using games and using gamification to teach people how, just really small micro. And again, it works for some people, won't work for everybody, but some people are into games. And then you don't realize you're learning because you're playing and you're enjoying, but you come away with some knowledge. And I think it's fascinating looking at how education can be, changing the format of education is actually quite important for bringing people on these journeys, rather than just assuming this is how we give you a book, you read this book, we test you. That will work with some people, but obviously doesn't work with everybody. I don't know if you've seen that in your educational journey, in terms of how there's different types of education that can support you or the people in different ways of learning, particularly with emerging technologies and different things that we can use to do them.
yeah, I totally agree with you. And actually, this is a big and complicated question, which doesn't have an answer actually
Yeah.
in education system, because it was built for such a long time in such a specific way, and it takes time to change it. But I have to say that it's happening. It's really happening, and the more uh, uh, the more need comes from teachers, not students. Students also
Yeah.
uh, also demanding, and Gen Z are very very demanding. They want to learn differently, but I can hear and see more need from teachers. They understand they don't have this required skill set and knowledge to make this change. And this is why some my teachers in master's degree, they asked me to be their teaching assistant, because they understand that they need this. They need this. They need to learn how to do that right and how to build this new ways of teaching and learning. And mostly, these teachers are their vision always was that the education have to be two-sided. You cannot learn when there's only one side which uh, speaks to you, and you all only receive the data. You have this two-ways process of exchanging ideas, of communication, and actually these teachers always say that at the first lesson of each course. Please ask, tell what you need, because we don't know. We have we have our experience, we have the knowledge, but we understand that different people and different groups in different times need different things. But if
Yeah.
you don't say, you don't ask, we will not know. And actually, what I see that mostly students afraid to ask because of
Yeah.
the barriers we were talking about, because they afraid that their question will be silly, or they, I don't know, many barriers from even Gen Z, because and this is also related to the curiosity lab where we are working on the curiosity, and which there is we are all born curious. Okay, there is no 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 human which was born and not curious to learn how to move his body and how to communicate with the environment. But the researchers show that the curiosity goes down with the age. And the question why are we became not curious about what's happening? Why does it happen? And actually, what's happening at the environment does not embrace the curiosity. Let's say a little kid at the class asking some question, and teacher answers in a way that this kid doesn't want to ask anymore. Like, are
Yeah.
you stupid? So why don't you know that? Or uh, look at him. What kind of question he's asking? All these things are not embracing the curiosity and are not contribute to the learning process. And this is why we see that kids in the at the beginning of the school are asking more than kids that are finishing school, because they had this horrible experience of teachers which are in even if it happened once, it's enough. And it doesn't mean that this teacher is bad. He's a human, or
Yeah.
she. They're human, and if you ask them the same question repeatedly for 100 times, in some point, maybe he will answer not in a nice way, okay? But it doesn't matter he's a bad person, which doesn't happen with robots. And this is why we are working on robots as assistants for teachers. Robots don't care to repeat the same information again and again. And more than that, he will do that according to the person, because, as we said, each one of us learning differently. So because the robot is working on AI algorithm, which is learning the person, how he talks, the way he learns. So he adjusts himself to this person. And the main purpose of his algorithm is to make the person happy during the process. It doesn't matter what he learns. as long as he's happy during the process, because the process is more important than the destination. Okay, so we have to embrace this curiosity, and which helps us to learn new things, and we have to use different tools. So we can use robots, we can use software for that, we can uh, use open innovation as a way to bring um, uh, um, different people from different backgrounds to the academy to talk and to show things how they are doing in their professional life, which we did actually with our students, and they could ask questions, and it was very engaging process. And I think there is no one a perfect tool for every problem. We have to play with this. We have to see, like you said, use gamification, try this, try that, and be open to new ideas also as teachers and also as students. And we have to
Yeah,
understand that we are together there. We have to help each other.
absolutely. I'm fascinated by the robots that you're building. Absolutely fascinated. So,
Oh, you have
how
to come
does
to the lab. You have to come to Israel and see. This is really
uh,
great.
they do they do sound amazing. So, how does it work in practice? How am I, if I'm sat with the robot, how am I interacting with it? How am I interacting with it as I'm learning?
Wow. It can happen in many ways.
Yeah,
The robot can be very smart or very
yeah,
simple. It depends.
mm,
It can just say some things with pauses in between. So
yeah,
you see him moving, talking, but uh, he does not respond to you. Actually, it's just a very simple way to, like we said, uh, to um, um, to to transmit some the same message over and over again, and this is very helpful. But the interesting part is coming when robot has uh, AI algorithm and microphone
yeah,
and camera, and he actually gathers the data from the environment, and adjust himself during this process. So he has the basic algorithm, but the robot learns how to use it specifically with the person. And the most important part of this communication, that you are not sitting alone with the robot. The idea is that you're working with this robot in the group of people,
yeah,
and this is what makes it social experience. And the main goal of this communication is to give to people uh, the right communication skills between them. The robot is
yeah,
mediator. The robot is helping. He's not replacing the human experience or teacher. No, the teacher is in the room, and actually, it gives him to be uh, to be somebody who observes and guides groups and people in the room, instead of doing this simple work which robot does. Actually, robots are helping him, and people, while then communicating with the robot, they um, they they can learn anything. And actually, there was a research that says that anybody can learn anything. Doesn't matter the age, the background, his physical condition. Everybody can learn anything, but for that we have to have the right tools and the environment, which is helps during the process. And this gives me hope, because me as aging person, I'm looking at my mother and I'm asking myself, uh, um, what is going to be for me to be in this age? Will I be able to learn when I will not have a good uh, eyes and ears and my body? What will I do? Will I be able to still to communicate and learn and be an independent person? This is what we want when we are old. We don't want to be dependent on somebody.
Yeah.
That technology will be uh, um, enough, will have enough tools for me to do that. And um, I always tell to my kids, learn how to help people. You like the technology, you embrace it, but think about how the technology helps to people, because this is the tool, not the target. Okay, and this is part of parenting. Actually, I have to say that since I became a mother, all these issues started to really bother me. Not just
Mm.
my career path, but what is going to be the future for my kids and for myself.
Yeah, it totally changes your perspective, doesn't it? I mean, I'm a father as well. I've got a son. He's still quite young. It does change your perspective on, certainly for me. It really changed my perspective. What am I doing right now? What's the world I'm creating for him? How can I help him? And also, it forces you to reflect. I don't know about you, but it forces you to reflect on yourself when you're around that age as well. Because I think back to the world when I was 6 or 7. I just got a VHS player. The internet wasn't the thing yet. It was a very different world, and it was like that curiosity to learn was incredibly important. And to be able to improve on that and provide a future for them where they continue to learn is very important. I've also got, as he's got into education, I found myself deeply frustrated by the way education works for young people specifically. He's very stressed about his handwriting because his handwriting is, it's not as neat as his teachers keep telling him it needs to be. And I'm like, but he can type absolutely fine. So it's one of the you start to see these little tension points where you see that he was actually getting quite sad and not sleeping because his handwriting wasn't as good as it could be. Yet he can type, and I think, well, I probably write with a pen never. But I type all the time. Now it's a skill you need. I take that, but it's starting to think about, well, how are we teaching? If we gave him a laptop to type at school, he would have probably finished all his homework already. So it's like there's these tension points you start to see. But I also love the concept you were talking about with the robot. I can imagine I can imagine the environment where you would have a teacher plus a human teacher and a human assistant, but also 3 or 4 robots with smaller groups of kids that could just be there. And originally, when you told me, I was thinking, is it a one-to-one relationship? But it being part of the group and almost like it being a robot that sits back and can guide and can listen and can steer and can sort of facilitate and doesn't get bored, never gets frustrated, won't give negative feedback, can understand the right type of feedback to give to that group. That blows my mind away because I'm like, you could do amazing things with that. You're just having that there with you. I would want that here with me right now. It's like actually just as I'm doing something and I'm getting frustrated with it, you can calm me down and tell me what to do. So yeah, it blows my mind that that's a possibility, and having that kind of tool with you in the learning environment feels phenomenal. Um,
Yeah, actually, this is the future I see, because now there's talk about the fifth revolution, industrial revolution, and actually the opinions are different about it. Is it about a blockchain? Is it about metaverse? Is it about robots? Maybe it's a bit of everything. Maybe um, we we shouldn't um, think about only one of them, because
yeah,
the the way we are living now, we have to deal many problems in the same time, or think about different things at the same time, and there are many questions, actually more than answers, about what it's going what will it does for us, and the privacy issues, and many questions which we
yeah.
have to answer. And education is there for that. Okay, there are some things we don't have to invent. We can take things that worked for us and improve them. Okay, um, that's why it's very important to learn the basics. And actually, if we're talking about the ethics in using technology, we can find many answers even in ancient Greeks. And actually, I just took some course which was made by Technion University in Israel, and the whole course was about ethics in engineering, and this is something that I
Interesting.
wish I had learned during my first degree 20 years ago. This is very important. This has actually answered my many questions I had during my career, because the main question: does it help to humans? Does it harm humans? And nobody wants to build something which can be harmful. But we don't have, as an engineers, answers for these questions. And this is something we have to know and learn and study and give to students in any age. I think it's very
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think ethics in engineering, ethics in innovation it's a really fascinating subject because it's never clear cut, which is really, as you say, most people don't want to create something that's ultimately going to harm people. Not everybody. There are clearly, inventions out there that are clearly for that, but most people don't. Um, I think a lot of people never even question whether it's a good or bad. They have a singular use case. Oh, this is definitely going to help because it can solve this here, but they forget about the impact, or they don't even question, not forget, they don't necessarily question the impact. And I think sometimes as well, when people do, the range of impact is so wide. It's almost impossible as an individual or group to actually really consider all the different impacts of this technology that you're bringing onto the world. The internet was clearly a very positive impact, but it's also had a lot of negative. Social media brought people closer together, but it's now actually driving up depression rates when self harm and within young. And it's like, so there's a positive and negative of everything. And it's the right framework. I think what's really important is, yeah, as you said, the teaching people the right framework to ask the questions and the right way of being able to look at it is really, really important, and constantly evaluated as well. So social media is an example. When Facebook first launched, they didn't expect it would have the impact it did. I'm sure when Twitter first launched, it wasn't expected that it could create echo chambers that could actually create political unrest. That was, I'm sure, never on anyone's radar. But then as they develop and they get more users on board, and they start to have that, constantly asking those ethical questions is really, really important. And again, I think it's also very important it's done very transparently as well, because you as an individual, or can never truly know all the different answers. I think all the products I've worked on in the past, you do question things, but you don't know all the answers. You don't know all the questions. You don't know all the impacts. You don't know how people will necessarily use it. You don't know where the potential edge cases could be. So I think it's really important to be able to teach people these are the questions you need to ask. These are the types of frameworks that you can learn from history. As you say, if there's methodologies from ancient Greek that you can bring into it, to keep looking at it from different angles and to keep reassessing what you're doing. And then going back to what we said before, being able to put your hand up and say, I don't really know what impact this is going to have. Can you help us? Or we built this thing and it's doing, we built this thing, it's an AI and it does this, but now we're not entirely sure if it's going to make these people out of a job. How do we help them? How do we help support them? Or all those different questions. I think there's lots of opportunities there. Because as you say, we don't really know what the next revolution will look like. We've got an idea. Will it have AI in it? Almost certainly. Will it have an element of blockchain in it? Probably. Will the metaverse be part of it in some form, but probably not what we have now? What I'm certain of is it will almost certainly look nothing like what I think it's going to look like right now. And in a few years' time, it will start to emerge as something else. But if people aren't asking those questions and those right type of questions, then we'll just create new problems that we don't know exist yet. I mean, we'll do that anyway, but at least if we're asking the questions along the way, there's the right frameworks to be challenging them and to be testing them, and to sometimes, you mentioned it before, put the brakes on a little bit and say, yes, we should be pushing forward all the time, but sometimes we need to take stock and go, what is this actually doing? How can we understand what it's doing before it becomes so big and so complicated that we no longer know what it's doing and we can't stop it?
Yeah, these are really hard questions, and there are always somebody who is interested in pros and cons. And the most important skills which are we looking at now as educators and should look and understand that we need to teach students how to think, how
Yeah,
to ask these right questions, how to be a good listeners than talkers. This is something that we don't teach. We all, and as a teachers, we talk too much. I have to say, I find myself sometimes stopping myself and saying, maybe somebody will ask some question, and if you don't, I will, because I also want to learn. And one of the great skills we have to learn is how to listen, how to communicate, be empathic to other side, and understand what is really bothering them, why they have this problem, and try to solve this together. And even there is never perfect solution. We cannot build perfect solution, but we can agree on some things together. And this is something we don't teach. We don't teach,
yeah,
not in the early ages, and not unfortunately our students. And what is happening actually, that they, when they graduate and they go to the field and do their job, they actually we are all, but mostly Gen Z, they're looking for impact. Okay, I know
mm,
this, but how can I actually bring change to what I'm doing? And they're passionate about it, and this is great. But in order to make this impact, to make the change, you have to understand the complicity of the situation, that you, as you said, you can bring something good, but you also can harm. Okay,
yeah,
and this is something actually which is exists in the methodology of systems design. There's a list of topics you have to fill in the document, and one of them um, is, okay, the system, what kind of improvement it brings, and what harm can it brings. And you have to think about it and fill this topic. You have to think, okay, I improved this, but it affects negatively on something else, so what do I do? And I have to be,
yeah,
like you said, transparent about it. And being as a person, to take all these things under consideration, it it requires other skill set, not a technical.
yeah,
It's empathy. It's communication. It's a ability to understand the other side. And these people are working on the ground. The new generation are there to replace my generation, Y generation, X generation, and this is the future. We have to invest in new generation and their education, give them the appropriate skill set, so they will not only will bring this the best of them and build the better future, but they will also know how to lead this change. This is also a very important
yeah,
topic. We have to raise the new generation of leadership and management. This is what we see. We have a big crisis of leadership everywhere. There is no trust to leadership today. So we have to think about that in very long run. Who are we raising? And what kind of skills they have to have, and how we can help each other.
Yeah, yeah. The distrust of leadership is fascinating right now. I think it is fascinating, and it's not necessarily wrongful that there's distrust of leadership. And I do wonder. It's something I've never actually considered before. The impact that's having on like the younger generation in terms of their viewpoint on leadership and how leadership is done, and whether it's positive leadership or negative leadership. It's yeah, I've not formulated an opinion on that yet, but it's quite interesting just to think about that. What does the Gen A, what do Gen A's in when they become leaders? What kind of leaders will they be? In a world that they're growing up currently in, where there's a massive distrust of leadership across the board because of various decisions that have been made in a way that probably hasn't been in a long time. And I don't know what education is putting in terms of leadership. It's interesting when we speak to our Gen Z audience, and also when we speak to businesses at Hundo. We speak about what are the key skills you're after. When we're speaking about people that are hiring, and number one answer is often, look, we can get really good technically sound people, but it's the communication skills that we're lacking. It's the, as you say, it's the leadership skills, it's the management skills, it's the ability to ask questions of outside of the box of this fine line that people have been taught. Often driven by the fact that education is, it's almost like it is a production line in terms of you're taught how to do this thin sliver, and that's very broad. And it's very broad sense. There are some very good education. There's very good education out there, but it does give you a very narrow view. And that leadership is probably one of them, where people say you have it naturally, and I just don't believe that. I believe anybody can be taught how to lead, and people that have it naturally doesn't necessarily mean they're good at it. And I think that is a big gap that needs filling in terms of what does a leader look like? What does a leader of a decentralized world look like? What does a leader when you're building communities of people that are disconnected potentially with through the metaverse, and their IDs are you don't know who they really are, but you understand who they are through an avatar. Again, it raises some really interesting questions about what the future of that looks like.
Exactly. Exactly. We can talk about all these things which are fascinating for hours, and I think it's very important that we are doing that also as one-on-one and in conferences and community meetings. We have to talk about these things. There is no taboo today. We have to open them and to be transparent and honest with ourselves. And I really hope that our future will be good, that will make our best of ourselves. And actually, technology will help us in that, and we will decide what is good for us and not the other way. That technology will decide for me what is good for me. That we will preserve this humanity and humility also. But we have to be aware of that and do not look for excuses why not. As I said, you have to find only one reason why you have to do that, and it will be enough. So I really encourage everybody to learn every day something new about themselves, about their family, and whatever. It's like a muscle. If you train this muscle every day, you will be stronger. Just it will not harm you. You will just gain only good things from that, and you will be ready for any change. We didn't talk about resilience, which is also very important, but this is how you do it. Just do it every day. You don't look for a appropriate time for that. We really need to invest in ourselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's a perfect way of wrapping up the conversation today. And we should probably have another conversation to start digging into resilience and to continue this as well in the future. For anybody listening, yeah, what's the best way of sort of keeping in touch or following you and sort of hearing more about like the fantastic work that you're doing?
Totally agree with you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining today. It's lovely to have you on.
Thank you so much.